China has been following a somewhat cautious foreign policy since 1989, and the new leadership under Xi Jinping has only slightly adjusted that. So it is a norm of Chinese foreign policy that they are somewhat ambiguous and tend to avoid being very direct and upfront in many situations, and they are focusing on their own economic growth and development, and only face up to conflict situations and when they really have to. And so in the Arctic, China's has some long-term goals, and to achieve those long-term goals at the moment, it appears to have been decided that China should be somewhat discreet in how it announces its interests in the region. But I think in the long run that China needs to be explicit about its interests, because ambiguity breeds mistrust, whereas transparency is enabler of confidence and trust. And you don't have to have the same interests, but if you understand what the other partner's interests are, then there's better opportunity to negotiate. Well, the US and China, I think, agree on some key issues, for example, on Arctic shipping. And regarding the Arctic Sea Route as an international strait. And they would probably agree on the environmental aspects, and they could partner in that regard. And they can also partner on science, and they are already doing that. In fact, NOAA, for example, has had a partnership with its equivalent in China since 2007, and I know the State Department has a regular dialogue on common issues with China, and that includes a dialogue on polar issues. So US agencies are already partnering with China on this, and my recommendation is that they could do that all the more, and that would be advantageous, but that they also should do in-depth due diligence to understand the range of interests that China has in the region, and where there are points of difference for the US. China and the US have talked about having a new kind of great power relationship, and that will require a deep understanding of each other to achieve that. I think that China has a reasonable understanding of the US and its interests. I wouldn't say it was complete, but a reasonable understanding, and they have many people who study the US and are fluent in English and know where to look for sources and all that. I think the US has a deep lack of comparable knowledge on China and comparable Chinese language skills. If we compare the era of the Cold War and the number of Sovietologists that there were in this country, and all levels of government, and the Russian speakers that there were available for the US to draw on its understanding of what was going on in the Soviet Union. The US does not have anything comparable of the pool of China knowledge that it needs to be able to participate in a new kind of great power relationship, because just the fact that the Chinese can speak English is not good enough. The US needs to really understand China and have its own large pool of China specialists who can give it specialist knowledge on a range of distinct areas, for example, China's Arctic interests.